good?
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, yeah, I think oh, voice is a little louder, but that's okay. I think we will get started. It's about 6:40, so if people still come in a little late, they can trickle in. The doors are still open anyway. So, okay, welcome everyone to today's session of the Austin Startup Meetup. I'm Suman Poluri. I'm the host for today. There's two other co-hosts that are not available today, but sometimes they come in, and in case you're also in on those events, I'll probably introduce you to them too. But today we are going to talk about idea to product to market. So basically, we're gonna have this like a more interactive session. I hate to keep talking for hours and hours together and make you guys sleepy. It's already evening, and you're already tired working all day. So we'll try to make this an interactive session, and usually we try to have our sessions in an informal way. We don't have like a super formal agenda and things like that. The rough agenda is like that. Like we give a small intro and then move on to the main session, whatever it may be, and then after the main session, about close to 8 o'clock, we're done with the main session, and then we go to an audience discussion, wherein we go through the audience, and each one here comes from a different background. They work on different things, and there may be also people here that have some challenges that they want some others to help with, or maybe to bounce ideas of someone else with a particular background, like marketing or sales or product and things like that. So since we all come from, we all have diverse experiences, it helps us to know who's here with what experience, and maybe there might be some matches between people that can help each other and tackle those challenges that they're having. So we do that at the end of the main session. We just, and also if there's people here that have their own startups, or that have their own organizations that they want to give a shout out to, that's a chance to do that as well. So that's how we roughly have this meetup organized. And before we move on to the main session, let me give just a brief overview on what we do here. So there's tons of great meetups in Austin where you can go and see startups pitching. You can see the founders, talk to those founders, and hear their pitches and things like that. But when I was trying to look at the meetup landscape like 2 years back, because I was working on my own on my own startup like a solo founder, I was wanting to share things and also learn from others more in not just in a 5-minute pitch fashion, but I wanted to understand what's going on behind the scenes, because we always look at say the news and TechCrunch and Y Combinator companies and all those things that raise millions of dollars, and we say, oh, that startup raised millions of dollars and they're trying to do something very similar, or this startup raised like $10 million and their product is like, it's so shitty that I can code it in like 2 minutes. What is so special about it, right? So there's always more than just the 2-minute pitch that we hear, or the 2-line news item that we see. Maybe they're doing something different, or they're doing something so unique that someone else, like the investors or maybe their users, saw value, and we want to understand those kind of things as well. And then on the other side, there's also people that are new to the startup community and want to know, hey, I'm so new to the startup world, and I don't know where to start. I don't know what the legal aspects I need to take care of, or I don't know what products or technologies or tools to use. And so it always helps us to kind of understand what others are doing, not just in one or two words, but to talk to them and gain those first-hand, experiences behind what they're building and how they're building their products and services and even teams, right? So that's the main focus here, is to have a platform for the Austin entrepreneurs to come and share those experiences, share those, talk about those challenges, and talk about their journeys, and see where they need help, or see where they have success, or where they found some issues in building their companies, and try to help each other. And ultimately, all we want to see is great companies come out of Austin, great startups coming out of Austin, right? So as a community, helping each other, because the startup journey for almost all the startups has similar paths, like building the product, or coming up with an idea, building the product, selling the product, product or service, and then also how to create your teams and things like that. They're fairly common challenges that almost all startups go through, and we want to make it easier for people in this community to share those things, so all of us can benefit from that, and all of us can succeed in what we are building. So that's basically what we try to promote here. So we have different kinds of sessions. We don't just focus on pitches, as I said earlier. There's other great meetups I'll talk about where you can go and pitch. We do pitches, but we do like once in a quarter. So we did a pitch event in the last event that we had here earlier this month, and the next pitch event might be closer to South by Southwest, so we can have like a larger crowd coming and looking at your pitches and things like that. But other than pitches, what we try to do mostly here is to bring in, like subject matter experts sometimes. Like we had a legal basics for startups earlier this year. We had a venture capitalist firm come and talk about venture fundamentals, like what venture capitalist firms look at in startups to when they look for funding and things like that. And then we also had like a design sprint session, like for people that are working on tech products. And so we kind of alternate between a lot of different things, but we focus on different topics for startups. So that's basically the gist of what we do. And before we move on to the main session, I'll go through a few slides. Firstly, the sponsors. We thank Funnel AI, Lenamout, and Capital Factory for their support, and they give us the place, and then they also help us get the drinks and sometimes even pizza and things like that. So I think the next event we'll have some pizza. There's another sponsor. So Funnel AI is a platform where you can, as a business, the platform helps identify and connect with prospective customers in real time using machine learning models to identify discussions that happen in public domain, and trying to understand who are talking about buying new products and services, and link those potential customers to companies. So you can learn more about funnelai.com, funnelai at funnelai.com. And Lenamout is a peer-to-peer rental marketplace where you can rent your things if you're not using them, or if you want to rent things from others, you can do so and save some money. Lenamout.com is where you can find more about that. And Capital Factory, last but not the least, it's the Center for Austin's entrepreneurial activity here. And there's tons of meetups and tons of entrepreneurial related sessions that happen here every day. There's about more than 3,000 meetups that happen here every year. And there's also a membership program where you can and get some mentors and advisors also, access to mentors and advisors also if you're part of that. And there's also a co-working space if you want to get some desks. So capitalfactory.com is where you can find more information. By the way, Capital Factory also will give you a 1 month free trial if you want to try out their membership or their co-working space, just send me a note if you want the trial code, and I'll connect you with the Capital Factory member who can provide that trial. So that's the sponsors, and as I said, the rough agenda is this way: some networking intro, and then we do the main talk, and then do some networking and discussion actually. For those that are new to the startup world and want to apply for accelerators or incubators, there's some upcoming deadlines. Again, this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but there's some deadlines for, say, Capital Factory AI Challenge, which is a couple of days from now. Accelerprise, I think that's an accelerator focused on SaaS and enterprise software. That's due on 31st, and Propellant Labs is due on 31st as well, and a few more in November. And you can always look at all these accelerator applications. You can file them online and look at all those deadlines and things like that on AngelList and F6S. Most of you have already heard about either of them. They're quite popular anyway. And a few resources for, again, people that are new to the Austin ecosystem. For those that want to know more about the accelerators in town, there's, or not just in Austin, but in Texas, there's RealCo in San Antonio, which is a more B2B focused accelerator. I'm part of Funnel AI, one of the sponsors that I talked about earlier, and we went through RealCo Accelerator, and we were a B2B company, and we have. We really like that experience. It's not like a typical 3-month accelerator. It's like a 15-month accelerator where they help you through different stages of your growth. So if you're a B2B focused company, I would suggest RealCo. And then there's Mass Challenge here in Texas, and they have Houston, Boston, Israel, and other places as well. But right now they have like 2 programs in Texas. We also went through Mass Challenge Accelerator in Austin. That's another great accelerator, and that's an equity-free accelerator, so you don't need to give away equity to go through that accelerator program. Founders Institute is more early stage, super early stage, I would say. If you have an idea or a napkin, you can go to Founder Institute, and they'll try to help you validate that ideas and things like that. So super early stage. Austin Tech Incubator, Bunker Labs. I think Bunker Labs is more focused on veteran-owned startups, I think. Divink is, they promote diversity, inclusion programs, and those kind of accelerators. Medical Innovation Labs, as the name says, more focused on medical. Tarmac Texas is another equity-free accelerator. SKU is focused on retail startups. And JBTVL is, I think, part of the Texas Venture Labs. It could be part of the UT Austin ecosystem, but I'm a little unsure about that. Sputnik ATX is another one. Techstars, and everyone knows about Techstars. International Accelerator, that's more focused on international founders and startups. Oracle Startup Accelerator Program is another, I think, equity-free also. It's somewhere here in, I know that I see their logo here, so it's somewhere here in Capital Factory. And there's bunch of others. I can send you a list of them. Or you can also go to, I'll talk about another resource where you can find out all these accelerators as well. Again, for those that are looking for funding here in Austin, there's various angels and syndicates that are active here, and even VC firms active here. Active Capital is based in San Antonio. I think it's promoted by some of the founders of Rackspace, or some of the people from Rackspace, and they're part of our investor a group, the ones that invested in our company. And then Geekdom Fund is also based in San Antonio. Live Oak Partners and Silverton and CTAN, they're based in Austin. Alamo Angels is based in, again, San Antonio. It used to be called San Antonio Angel Network, which now is Alamo Angels. And Quake Capital is also based in Austin. Again, you can find all these things here, and there's, again, a lot more than just these. You can find all that information online. Some more resources I'll quickly go through. We know AngelList and F6S. Everyone knows LinkedIn to find and connect with other people. Austin Digital Jobs is a Facebook group for people that want to post tech jobs or things like that, or find tech jobs and things like that for, in the Austin community. Austin Tech Volunteers is also a Facebook group if you want to volunteer for tech initiatives in Austin or find volunteers for tech initiatives in Austin. TechMap co-founders meetup also happens in the same room, but happens every second Tuesday or the first Tuesday, I forget. But that's a great meetup to go to, especially for those that want to pitch. That's a great meetup to go to because they just solely focus on pitching, and every month they have about 5 companies, local Austin companies, come and pitch. So that's a great way to meet a lot of the startup folks here in Austin, and also look at the new founders emerging from Austin. Solo founders, there's one of our members in this group started this Solo Founders Facebook group, and he was working like a lot of other startup folks. He was working solo on his own startup and got fed up, working on his own, got lonely, and he started that group to connect with other solo founders. So if you're also bored and lonely, building your startup, that's a Facebook group you can join. And Austin Startups is another Facebook group, a great resource. Almost 30,000 members or so on that Facebook group. A lot of people in Austin are on that group, and if you have any questions or anything that you want out of the startup community, you can post there, and I'm pretty sure you'll get a reply from someone. And Y Combinator also has some structured startup program. I think they call it Y Combinator Startup School, I think, these days. But they also posted all the videos and lectures from their program onto YouTube. You can search for Sam Altman's startup classes, or maybe even search with Y Combinator, and you'll find those. Again, those are more structured for people that want to have like a structured topics for different aspects of the startups. And local meetups, great way to meet new people in the startup community. And when I was new to Austin, local meetups were the way I built all my network here. And there's tons of great events and meetups here. Startupinfomatters.com is maintained by the director of Mass Challenge Texas, Mike Millett, and he kind of put a list of resources for Austin and Texas in there for startups, and a very exhaustive list, but it may be a little outdated, but he tries to maintain it as much as possible. And then this last one, acceleratetexas.co, is the one where a lot of the people in this community, the incubators and accelerators in this community, have come together and put a website for people that want to connect with the right incubators and accelerators. So if you're, it's like a questionnaire format where you answer a few questions, and then it gives you a choice of which accelerators meet your criteria. So for example, if you say, hey, I'm in the retail space, and I don't mind giving up equity, and then I do so and so, blah blah blah, and then your choices may be SKU and Mass Challenge or something like that. So it's basically a resource for you to find, as a founder, to find which accelerator or incubator in Texas and Austin that meets your criteria. So acceleratetexas.co is what it is. Again, anyone that requires some help or with testing or spreading the word or anything like that, let me know, and I'll just shoot out a mail to the group asking who's interested in helping you, or maybe if there's anyone who's interested in testing your product or downloading your apps or things like that. And spreading the word, we also tweet on our official Twitter account, and also send out a newsletter to the group. We have about 2,600 people in the group, so if you want us to spread the word about your startup or any of your apps or things like that, just let me know. Whenever I send out that newsletter or tweet on that Twitter account of ours, we'll try to spread the word as much as possible. Hiring or looking to team up with someone, let us know again. We'll include that in the newsletter and our communication to the group. And any other questions you have or you need help with, just drop me a line. So um, one thing I would like to make make a point to do every event that we have here is that you all come here with a certain expectation of from this event or from any event that you go to usually, and everyone comes here with a different expectation, and I may or may not, or this event may or may not cater to all your expectations. But one thing we can do here is we get a fairly good group of people here. So the one thing you can take away from this meetup is, if not the content of this meetup, you can make a new connection, right? So you can find a person that you have not met before, and make a connection to that person, and who knows, where that connection leads you. So we'll take 2 minutes. Look to your right and left and find one person that you have not met before you came to this meetup. Just introduce yourself, exchange your LinkedIn profiles, or if you have cards, exchange your cards, and then we'll come back in 2 minutes, and then we'll resume the session. Okay, just make a new connection. We'll take 2 minutes from now. Okay, okay. We'll all get seated. Okay, 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 okay. Okay, let's get back to the session. Hopefully, you made a new connection today, and I encourage you to always make new connections at meetups such as this, and also continue these conversations later. I mean, you may have found some people here in the audience that may help you with some of these challenges that you're facing. So, always try to make new connections and also keep them. Keep connected to them even after the meetup, so you can. And we also have a Slack channel where you can also sign up and maybe talk to others that come to this meetup also. And there's a link to the Slack channel in both the meetup page and also the newsletter that I send out. With that said, let me take a quick survey of who's here in the audience. So who's here for the first time? Awesome, lots of folks. Thank you. So who here in the audience already has a startup of their own? Great. And who here doesn't have a startup yet, but they have an idea, but they're working, maybe thinking towards creating a startup? A few, okay. That's good. And who here that already have startups have got some funding for your startups? Two, okay. Any investors in this room? Investors? Oh, we have one. Okay, so you're the most popular person today.
Well, I invested at first $1,000 in hot schedules.
Oh, wow.
Never heard of that.
I may have.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So, so that's usually the so that's usually the mix of audience here. We have a few early stage founders, a few people working on. Oh, by the way, who here is like a veteran startup entrepreneur? Has like multiple startups? Just one? Okay, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you. So we have like a mix of, or mostly early stage entrepreneurs plus a mix of a few people that have done multiple startups. So the next meetup is on 26th of November. I think usually we have it on the 4th Tuesday, but next time this month we have the Thanksgiving holidays, so we shifted it just a little bit, so 26th. And then if you have any other requests about the type of events that you want me to schedule here, let me know. I can get some of those people to come and talk about those things. So with that said, let's go to our main talk. Okay, so I just wanted to give a small disclaimer before I talk about these things. I'm also, doing my first startup. So this is, these things here are kind of a mix of things that I and my co-founders have learned through our experience building our first startup and getting it to through funding, and then getting our first few customers, and now the number of customers we have, and there's also some some things here that I or my co-founders have heard from advisors and mentors at the 2 accelerators that we were part of, and also some generic feedback from the other founders through the programs, and also that we have interacted with over the years. So, and again, any piece of advice that you hear from me or from anyone for that matter always comes with a an asterisk, the conditions applied thing, right? Because no advice is a foolproof, a bulletproof advice. It always depends on various things. It depends on the conditions, the market that you're in, the stage that you're in, the product that you're working on, or the idea that you have to address a particular challenge, right? So no advice is 100% applicable to all scenarios, and no advice is going to be foolproof. It always depends on various factors. So please bear that in mind. And none of these things are going to be like the things you have to do in case you want to succeed. Some of these things have come from our experience building a B2B company. So building a B2B company will be quite different from building a consumer-focused company, and it'll be quite different from building a hardware-focused company. So there's various things that I just want you to keep in mind before we go through these things. So we all start with an idea, right? I mean, we want to take the ideas we have. We always have like thousands of ideas running through our minds, and we want to take some of those great ideas that we have and create great products to to benefit other folks that may be having some difficulty addressing doing some of the things that they usually do in their work lives or maybe their personal lives or things like that. So we always start with the idea, right? I mean, we have ideas which are organic in the sense like comes from our experience because you try to do something. Maybe you go on a vacation, you find that booking an airline or booking tickets from different airlines or going to a different country and finding it hard to do a few things there, talking to people and things like that, and you may think, hey, I can make this process easy. I went through all these things and I have a great idea to make this process easy, and you may build something out of it. So ideas can be organic like that, coming from your experiences or coming from our experiences. And there can be also, that's not the only way we build companies, right? Or we build products. There's also things that you see in the market that, hey, Instagram is there. It's working great, but I don't think Instagram is satisfying my needs. I can build a clone of Instagram and I can still be successful. There's lots of examples like that too, right? There's sorry. Yes, sir.
Not sure if questions are allowed, but
you can. This is going to be an interactive session, sir.
Organic in your life and competitive in your possible job market, the same thing? Aren't you organically growing it from your knowledge?
In a way, it's a spectrum. It's always a spectrum, right? Sometimes it's organic, and you may not even have a job to experience some of the challenges, right? You can be just a high school student where.
But that also makes it organic because you don't have a job and you can be competitive.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said competitive there because the thing that I wanted to express there was you're just building a competing product to what's already there in the market. So, for example, you see Uber being so successful and you want to just build a clone of Uber and then call it, say, Lyft. And that's something that it didn't come from your experience, but you just saw that, hey, Uber is so successful, why don't I build something like that, right? So, and there's always, again, there's no one way to do it. There's always, some people will say that, if you talk to some of the investors, they may say that, hey, if it comes from your experience and you felt this need to build this product, then they feel more comfortable in investing in your product or investing in your journey. But that's always not the case. There's also lots of people that build, a very similar product to what's already there in the market, and then they're still successful. And there's people that invest in those products as well, right? So there's all types of ideas, and again, there's no one right thing. It's always like the right thing depends on various factors, like again the industry you're in, the type of team you have, and your skill sets and things like that. So with ideas, you also need to just not look at just the ideas, but also you need to think about industry, right? So there's some industries where there's a high barrier to entry. There's lots of regulation. There's lots of peripheral things that you need to take care of before you can even set foot in that industry. So there's ideas that may look great on paper, but maybe hard to implement with a small team, unless you have like a great PhD candidate on your team or a great investor already ready with capital and things like that. and some industries may also be like the users in those industries might be so old-fashioned that you'll have a huge time getting those people accept your products. So there's tons of examples like that too. There's the auto industry market. There's the a health a market. I mean, health insurance market, and even regular health startups. I mean, the startups in the health industry, healthcare industry, I would say, where they find a lot of pushback from the users that they don't want to kind of use new products. And there's also pushback not from the users, but the organizations that the users are part of. Like, they may be part of a big hospital group that doesn't want to change their technologies, that doesn't want to change their way of working. So you have a huge struggle in some industries converting the users into actual people using your product. But there's some industries where people are more tech savvy, but people are more prone to trying out new things. And I mean, we have an experience because our company focuses on auto dealers. We found it initially very hard to. I mean, we thought we had a great idea, and we went to them and we talked about, hey, our product finds you potential customers. This is what we do, and you just see all your potential customers, especially new age customers that you are not targeting now. People that are talking about buying cars online and buying cars on social media, expressing they're in the market for a new car and things like that. I mean, we'll show you right on your dashboard here, and all you need to do is just engage with that customer, convert that customer, and bam, you have a new sale. But then we found that it's not that easy. I mean, when we gave that dashboard to the customers, we made the dashboard as easy as it can be, but what we found was they don't want to put even a little bit of effort trying to convince a user. They're accustomed to having users come into their lot and then converting that user by through the means of hard selling or bargaining or whatever they're accustomed to over the years, right? So we had to do quite a bit to convince the users to use the product and also understand their challenges, not just convince them, but understand their challenges and why they don't want to do certain things. And we had to dumb down the product, very much in some cases, and then also do some trainings and initiatives like that to help them, ease their way into our product. So when you think about ideas, just don't think about ideas, but also think about what's your target customer like. If you anticipate that just a little bit beforehand, I mean, it'll cut down on a lot of work down the line. If you can understand, what your user persona is that is going to be using your product, that'll help tremendously down the line. You don't need to build a product and then refactor the product to their kind of behavior. And again, timing is it's hard to time the products, but timing always helps. I mean, until Airbnb came into picture, I mean, it was always hard to do the rentals and things like that. But once people are familiar with Airbnb and people can rent things like that, I mean, as big as houses and things like that, it made a lot of people much more, prone to, or much more comfortable with the idea of renting online and having an online marketplace and things like that, where you can rent your personal things. So timing sometimes helps a lot, but again, that's another thing that you just need to think about it. Sometimes you may get it right or not, but it's always like, and it's not just market timing; it's also timing for regulatory changes and events like that. So, for example, I think when changes to 401k and things like that come into picture, that's a good time to maybe release a product, or if you're working on a product that addresses that insurance market and things like that, that might be a good time to release the product or launch the product, right? So timing can be like just not market acceptance, but also regulatory changes or changes in. I mean, you can even look at news events and understand if there's a particular news that comes out of an industry that affects the industry drastically. That's a good time to release a an innovative product that disrupts our industry, right? And again, competitive landscape is another thing. You can see how many people are already in that market where you want to launch your products in. And it's always not a bad thing to have competitors. I mean, if there's already competitors in the market, lots of competitors in the market, it's not just that it's saturated. It also tells you that a lot of companies are trying to address issues in the market, but maybe there's scope for disruption there, and that's why a lot of people are trying to address that, but maybe no one is especially successful. So competitive landscape is also a good thing to look at the ideation phase, because that tells you what products are successful in that landscape and what companies are not successful, and that maybe you can tweak your idea just a little bit to address some of those places where they're not working, or some of those challenges that people are facing in this industry that no other product in the landscape in the industry is addressing, right? So these things really help in the later stages, because ideation phase is where you don't have an actual product, right? So you can tweak your idea in any number of times and iterate on that idea before coming up with maybe a better solution, understanding that industry, and approaching that problem with a well-rounded perspective. And then when you think about building an idea, you also think about what it takes to build that idea. Because if you're a person that's purely technical, for example, I'm a technical person and I have no clue about sales. I wouldn't build a sales-focused product, because that entails having some experience in sales. Even though I know that there's maybe one or two issues in sales that I can solve, that's not my skill set. So anticipating those kind of things as well, because having that idea tells you who you need to have on your team. Okay, you're a technical person and you want to attack a problem in sales. You need to have someone like a sales expert on your team who can take care of that side of the business. And again, building a team is a really crucial aspect of startup, and you also need to find, if you think about it ahead of time, you'll also be able to easily find people when you need them. So if you're looking for technical, you're a business person and looking for technical people to build your product or to join your team, if you anticipate that need ahead, you can always try to go to these technical events in town, or maybe meet up with the technical folks on in your network on LinkedIn, and maybe just have that conversation going on. So it'll be much easier for you to ask them by having that conversation going on a little longer than just dropping a line when you need them, saying, hey, I want to build a great thing, do you want to join me? And who will join you, right? It always helps you think about that ahead of time. And then capital is one, I would say, very important aspect that a lot of people don't kind of think about, because when building products, especially technical people, when building products, we are super excited on doing some side projects and things like that. And at some point we think, oh, this is a great product that I built as a side project. I want to take it to the next level, and then I will find that, oh, to take this to the next level, I need a lot of capital, because some industries are capital intensive, and some products basically they are capital intensive, especially on the I would say anything hardware or on the medical field. They always have a lot of capital intensive startups, because they have, for medical field, you need to know all those regulations beforehand. You need to have a plan in place to see how you want to address those things. Just building a medical device because you're a person that's technically savvy doesn't help, because you need to understand what regulations are there in the space, what it needs to get that FDA approvals or whatever approvals you need, and they're not actually easy processes for the uninitiated, and they're also not easy to, if you're building a hardware product like that, it's not easy to scale up and down like just a technical product or a software product would do, right? So those are capital intensive industries, and it always helps to understand what your capital requirements would be, not just now, but maybe 1 or 2 years down the line at the least, or maybe 5 years down the line would be really helpful. That also helps you, because one piece of advice that um, I really value that we received during our accelerator, from our advisors during our accelerator phase, was that keeping or keep talking to investors even when you don't need them, especially when investors, they receive hundreds of requests to call, coffee or lunch or whatever from various founders. They can have only so many coffees, right? They can't have coffee every day, right? So their time is valuable for them too, because they don't want to hear shitty ideas all day long, and just want to give their time for anyone and everyone, right? So it helps make those connections beforehand. And if you don't want that investor down the line, you don't ask them for money. You just have a contact who can maybe advise you for some things. So it always helps to have that introductions, and investors also, and not just investors. If there are like people in your industry that you want to advise you on your team, and those people are not generally approachable because they're like super high level people in a big company or things like that. You don't wake up one day and say, oh, I need this person, and I want to reach this person and he'll be a great person on my team to advise me, but I don't know how to contact him, right? Cold emails don't work most of the time. They do work in some cases, but not most of the time. But having that in mind, like having that requirement that, hey, I would need some people like that on my team beforehand, would always help you look for, oh, this person will be a great person to be in my network because he can introduce me to that person. And so that way, always keep things, not just for the immediate next few months, but keep things open for the next year or a couple of years down the line. So that way, it will work for capital, it will work for resources, advice, and mentorship, and things like that. And people are more receptive to warm introductions than cold emails and things like that. So, that was a great piece of advice we got from the investors. And the other thing people told us was, when you already have an introduction with an investor, and the investor doesn't want to invest at that time in your company, don't be disheartened. Just keep that investor in loop every month or every quarter. Keep sending updates whether they want to invest or not, because you already got an introduction. They won't mind getting an email from you. Just keep sending your progress of your company every month, and that way, when they see that your company is growing, when they see that you're persevering in your efforts to build your company, that'll give them much more. They'll be much more easier to talk to, asking for capital than. Sometimes in one of our accelerator batches, I think there was one company that got great success by keeping that communication going even when they didn't have a product in hand. They continuously sent updates that, hey, we developed a prototype, and they sent an update that with a picture of the prototype, and then and when they didn't have sales at that time, and then when they had sales, they kind of started showing, hey, we had like $10 of sales. Even though it's an insignificant amount, they kind of kept them up to date, their investor network up to date, and they had like an investor that approached them, said, hey, where are you? What are you guys doing this month? I've seen your updates, and let's have a chat. And that's how they got some of their investors. So that was a great advice that we got, and I would like to. I always share that advice because that's a great piece of advice, in my opinion, and that helps to. It helps to start things like that in the ideation phase than start something much later when you really need it and you're in a pinch and you cannot get those things done. And again, what's your goal? some people build startups because they want to build a huge unicorn kind of company. Some people build startups that they want to work on this idea passionately for 2 years or 3 years, and then maybe sell to another bigger company and then exit out with a big paycheck, right? And some people don't want to do that. Some people want to grow their companies organically, and then even if it is growing slowly, and then want to build much more human focused companies, or companies with a much more human touch, and their goal is not acquisition or things like that, but they want to keep that company going for 20 years or 30 years or however many years they want to spend. And that goal, keeping that goal clear, will also help you target your next steps when you come to the funding. Because I know VCs typically look at 20 times growth, and maybe angels will look at maybe 5 times to 10 times growth. And so if your goal is not to grow that fast, when you think about funding, you'll also know what your options are. If you're not going that fast as 20 times or more than 20 times, maybe VC firms are not they're not going to help you. Angels and syndicates might be more approachable in that case. Or if you're not even planning to sell your company and you're still making revenue, that's the best case scenario. You don't even need to, your revenue flow itself is your investment. You don't even need to approach investors. And so thinking about that goal or having that goal in mind also helps you build the company that you want. How fast you need to hire, how fast you need to build your products and things like that. And then again, there's no one way to do it. Some people tend to build things on the side, and finally they stumble upon there's like happy accidents in the scientific world when you do some experiments and you find something new that you're not intending to find out. And so some people build projects on the side, and sometimes those projects turn out to be great billion-dollar companies. And some people plan and then do, or I would say most people plan and then do, because not everyone has a happy accident and that turns out to be a billion-dollar company, right? So most people plan and then try to do it. And for most people, I think the general advice is then to plan and think about all these things and then do or build what you want. And then there's a few other things like research before even building products. And this is something that some of our advisors have also told, not just us. We already had a product because we were working on a previous version of the product, and then we pivoted. But then some of the companies in our accelerator batches, they were quite early stage, and they were like they had a small prototype, but they didn't even have like a working product at that time. So a lot of advisors gave them this advice is to always do some research, because you always build products because you think they address a particular need, right? If there's no need, then why build that product? But if there's a need, that means that you know where that need is. So it means that you know someone in your network that is struggling with something, and you're building a product to address that issue. So if you already know that there's a person or a few people in your network that are facing this problem, then talk to them. Talk to them before even building the product. And the advice we received was to ask open questions, because when you ask, hey, I have this product in mind, will you use this product? That kind of already leads the person to answer in a way that may not help you. They may say, if you're asking a friend or family, they may, because they're a friend or family, they don't want to upset you. They would say, hey, I would use this product, even though they would not, right? But asking open-ended questions like, say you're working with a company that's doing payroll, and they always have, it's a small and medium company, and they always have issues with all the other payroll softwares, which are, say, targeted towards like mega corporations, and they may be doing a lot of hacks here and there. I mean, they may be doing things in Excel spreadsheets or here and there, and trying all of those things together with some manual effort to get by those issues that they have. I mean, if you find those things, I mean, asking open-ended questions will kind of uncover those things, because when you say, I have this product, will you use it? You won't get that insight into why they're using, or why they're doing all these 100 hacks to get a piece of job done, than do like then use something that is like very streamlined, right? So asking open-ended questions will be like, hey, so what are you doing? I know that you're working on this payroll software. Is that really helpful to you? Or maybe are there any issues that you're facing using this? Because I heard like a lot of other people complain about this software. What's your experience? And then they'll kind of open up about, I use it this way, but it doesn't really help me in do my job effectively. So we kind of create an Excel spreadsheet, and then put all those things, and do like 1,000 formulas, and throw 1,000 formulas in the Excel spreadsheet, and then when Windows upgrades, that broke or something like that, right? So you'll find those things by asking, oh, okay, so why do you do that? Why do you put all your things in Excel spreadsheet? Why don't you have like don't you have a tool where you can save all that, maybe a CRM tool or something like that, where you can save all that and then pull that data? Maybe they tried that and it failed, and it didn't integrate well with the other product. Maybe that's why they're doing that. Then you'll uncover solutions, or you'll uncover problems that you have not even thought about earlier. So, that was a great advice we personally received, is always ask open-ended questions. And sometimes, if you don't ask open-ended questions, what will happen is you'll start hearing feature requests from the user. You'll say, hey, will you use this product? It does so, A, B, and C. And they'll say, oh, I like this product. I want D also. Can you add D to this product? And then you'll say, oh, okay, this user likes this product, so he wants me to add D. I'll add feature D in there. And then you talk to another user the same way, and they'll say, oh, I like A, B, and I don't like C that much. Can you add feature E in there? And you'll think, okay, they like, feature A, B, and they don't like C. Maybe I'll add feature E to sell it to them. And at the end of the day, you'll find that you'll have 10 feature requests from the users, and when you add up all those feature requests, the product is completely different, and it doesn't do one thing good. It doesn't do 10 things good. It's like a mediocre product for everyone, and you ruin the experience for everyone, and you don't end up selling that product, right? So asking open-ended questions will kind of help you understand than receive those requests from the users that, I want this, I want that, and it'll help you determine what you want to put in the product. And then you can put maybe A, B, and E as the features, and sell that product as this does only this, but it does the best in the industry. And that's what your sales pitch will be too, right? So, and then as I said, they may be using non-tech solutions. They may be using some paper notes, or they may be using some other manual. They may be doing some manual work every day to find. In doing their jobs. If you find all those things that they're doing, you'll create a product. You'll end up creating a product that will help those people that you want to target do their jobs more effectively. And the most important things I would say is ask them. When you ask them about their products, ask them about, hey, what amount of time you're spending on doing all these things. You have to do a job A, and I think with this product that you already have in your company, you would be able to do it in 10 minutes. Why are you spending like 15 minutes or sorry, why are you spending like an hour or 2 hours on this job? And that'll help you understand the money that's being wasted on doing other things which are not actually helping their job, right? So that'll tell you how much your product is worth. That'll help you price your product to when you do the sales pitch. You can say, hey, using our product, you can do this job in like 10 minutes, and we're saving like $1,000 every month for your employees, and that's what you're saving, and that'll help you sell the product better, and also do a better sales pitch when you go to that customer. And then also look at problem frequency. If they're only doing this, I mean, if they're spending that 1 or 2 hours just once a month or once a quarter or once a year, I mean, that's not going to make much of a dent in their bottom line. I mean, it's like, if it's a frequently occurring problem, showing a solution will be much more appealing to them than if it's like happening once or twice a year. Who cares? I mean, if you go to the company and say, hey, our product will solve this, they'll say, I mean, why would I pay you like $1,000 a month for this product when I mean, this happens only once or twice a year? I mean, we can live with that, right? So a good product would be like the one that solves where the money wasted is high, and then the problem frequency is also high, and then that'll help you build a product which has higher margins, that you can sell better, that you can price better. And then potential users. I mean, where do you find those potential users? If you are actually building a product that addresses payroll software issues, I mean, find events or find places where those people meet. I mean, if it's a payroll company, if there's a payroll company in your or payroll software company, or people or companies that use this payroll software in your area, just go to them and talk to them. Or I mean, if they don't let you talk to their employees, find where there's events happen. If there's no events happening in that area, I mean, go to meetup.com or even Bright or somewhere, just create an event for that industry and say, hey, happy hour for all these HR or payroll people, and I mean, someone will look at that and come to your event, and then you can ask them, hey, what's happening in your company? How are you dealing with all these issues with the software and things like that? Or go to industry conferences. Sometimes industry conferences, what happens is you need to pay a lot to, say, advertise your product and things like that. But in some cases, you may have like a lower price ticket, or even if you don't have a ticket, you can actually go to that place where a conference happens, and you can maybe do some guerrilla marketing and things like that. Stand outside the conference, and people will be coming out for lunch, and at the evening to go back to their hotels or things like that. So catch them while they're waiting for their, while they're in the lobby or things like that, and then ask them, hey, make some connections in the industry, and also ask them like, things that are not so good in their industry, and then that'll help find potential users. And again, when you get those users, don't just talk to them, also get their contacts if possible. Maybe, I mean, LinkedIn is a good way, I guess. You can exchange your contacts on LinkedIn, or add that contact as a person in your network, or get their card or things like that. So that way, when you build a product, that contacts will be helpful, and they'll become your first customers. And you can actually reach out to them in later stages and ask them, hey, we have a product. You remember we talked about this issue that you were having? We have a product that we built that will solve that issue. Do you want to try? And they'll become your first customers. And the product, again, for the product, a lot of people, especially tech people, like me, I'm guilty of this too. I mean, what we try to do is, we see a problem, and we see our tech background as like a hammer to every problem, and then we try to build solutions, whether those solutions are useful or not. We just because we know how to build them, we just start building them, and then we build like a grand product, and it doesn't solve anything. There's a lot of ways to gather user feedback about the product without even building the product, by the way of you can do a low-tech validation or even a no-tech validation, like get those people that you want to that you want to have as your potential customers, talk to them, understand the prompts, and then get their issues on a spreadsheet, and maybe build super simple. It could even be like if they're facing a sales problem, maybe try to just have a website or a small web page as your front end, and then let them enter some things that they want, and then do the things behind the scenes manually, and then even though the person that fed that information on the front end will not know what's happening behind the scenes, they may think that just because they put in some information and hit a button, something happened, and they'll get the result in new contacts or new leads in the next day. I mean, you're basically doing it behind the scenes by a manual process. I mean, do it for a few customers and then try to understand the problem, because that'll actually help you understand the problem better, and also validate with a few customers without building anything. And you can use like landing pages. You can maybe if you have like a Slack or Facebook group, or if you don't have, create a Slack or Facebook group and then ask those people to join there, and then try to address their problems, address your potential customers' problems through those groups, and have some blogs and things like that, where you post articles by the means of or maybe get some experts to post articles on your blog for that industry. And then that also helps you build your credentials as a company, and also helps you understand the problems better in that company, in that industry. And then always start small, and always repeat the work, show, listen loop, which is like you build a small thing, show it to your potential customers, get their feedback, listen to their feedback, and then go back and fix whatever issues there are, or add a one more small feature, show it to them, get the feedback, and just keep iterating on that. That'll help you build a product that actually addresses the issues, rather than building like 10,000 features, spending 2 years, and paying like $1 million to a contracting company to build that, and then finding out that 999 features of your product are not even useful in that to that industry, right? So, and then technology, and a lot of people, especially for those that are not techies, when they come to technology to build the products, they're kind of always looking, how do I do this? I don't have tech skills and things like that. If you don't have tech skills, that's not a problem. There's like tons of tech events that happen in the area that you're in. So go to some tech. There's an iPhone developers group in Austin. There's a front-end developers meetup in Austin. There's like a e-commerce meetup in Austin. There's tons of meetups where people in technologies, whether it be e-commerce or other things, they gather and talk about those things. Go there, network, and you'll find some other people that have tech skills that can help you. And some people can be even students that want to do some internship or some work between their college, in the downtime they have between the semesters and things like that. So maybe they'll help you. So never fear that you have to outsource this to a big company, development company, to do all that stuff. Just go and network at all these events. Maybe if you like that person, get them on as a tech co-founder, and that'll help help you manage the company better, and that'll also give that person a stake in the company, and they'll work for the company and not just throw out a product or a feature because you just asked them for just a weekend gig, right? So that'll help your company, that'll help your the overall growth of the company, and also make the products much more better. And if you are already a tech person, a lot of tech people, there's another thing we are guilty of, which is like we have a tech background, but when we see something new and shiny in the tech industry, there's a new piece of technology that came in, we always try to use that new piece of technology, whether it's proven or not. And then it's not bad, but the problem there is I could have built the product that I had in mind in say 2 weeks with the background I have, even though the technology that I'm much more proficient in is maybe 10 years old. but it's more stable. It's more, it has all the feature sets available for it. I could have built that in 2 weeks, but I'll see some new technology that people are discussing on, say, Hacker News, or maybe that Facebook has released, or something like that, and I'll start doing things in there. And it's a new technology. It always has issues with that. It always has new things to address, which are not the case with stable technologies that have already been in the market. So I'll spend a lot of time learning and doing trials and errors, and I'll still end up building a product, but it'll take maybe like 2 months or 5 months to do that. So if you're a tech person, use your skills rather than trying to always chase the shiny thing in the market, because no one cares whether you built it in Rust, or you built it in Java, or you built it in Fortran or Pascal. As long as they can see that your product works and is helpful to them, I mean, that's all they care, right? I mean, that's something that I see a lot in the tech space. Being a tech a product person, I just wanted to bring that out. And again, when you're building a product, people talk about building MVPs, right? So the idea behind that is to scope the product progressively, rather than build a huge product, spend like 1 year or 2 years building the product, and then finding the shortcomings of the product. Rather than that, scope your product progressively to complex scenarios. In the initial stages, limit your feature set. Just don't put everything. We're actually guilty of that too. When we build the product, our initial version of the product, we were kind of talking to a lot of potential users, and they all, I mean, the users came from different industries. We had auto dealers, we had real estate folks, we had people in the industry, insurance industry, and all those places. They all wanted us to build products, and being a machine learning focused company, we had to build machine learning models for all of those areas. And we were trying to spin up, create models and train those models and all those things. We're doing like, we were just like at that time, a 5-person company, and we were trying to address like 10 industries, and we were failing miserably. And then after, I think, 6 months down the line, we said, let's focus on which ones we have the best product in, and then focus on that. And now we have just limited our focus to just one industry, and then we want to be the best in that industry, and then go on to other industries. And so we asked, we talked to our initial customers that were not part of that industry we selected, and then we said, hey, you can still use the product, but it won't be great, but since you're our initial customers, you can still use the product. And if you want to drop off, that's fine too, but we'll put you on a wait list, and when we come back to addressing this industry, we will we will come back to you, and we will give it a try again. And so we had to let go of some of the customers that we already had, because we wanted to limit our feature set. And so by limiting the feature set, you're actually limiting the amount of work you need to do, and also limiting the time by kind of, if you take a feature that takes like 2 months to build, and there's another feature that is equally important in your product but takes like 2 weeks to build, I would say limit your time to that first the second feature, which takes you two weeks to build but is as important, and then show it to them again, get some feedback, iterate on that. If they like it, then release that feature, then go to the next feature, which takes 2 months of time, and you'll still have customers that are already using your product. And so scope what you're trying to do very in a limited manner. And then again, the last one is something that I already talked about. Limit your spec for the iteration that you're working on. Limit that spec to just the problems that you discovered in that ideation phase. Don't include any of the user requested features, because the users will request the world. You cannot build everything in the product. You don't want your product to address everything from washing machines to aircraft, right? You just want your product to do what you want the product to do and help the businesses, than ask users to tell what features they want. And then if you don't need to build, because there's a lot of cases where you don't even need to build a product. I mean, if you're an e-commerce space, why build a whole e-commerce site? There's Shopify, there's WordPress with e-commerce plugins. There's tons of other ways that you can do to build your site or build your platform without even spending. Without even trying to design your whole application. There's always already pre-built solutions and easy to use, easy to plug in solutions out there in the market. Just try to use them. Don't build things on your own if you can. I mean, there's some cases where you have to build your own products, but in a majority of standard use cases, there's already products in the market that you can just plug and play, right? And again, iterate and discard. So keep iterating on the features, the feedback, the product, and then don't fall in love with any feature, because one of the traps that a lot of founders fall into is because they built that product, they added all those features, they always have a bias and they think that their features in the product are the best things in the world, right? So if they don't shine in the marketplace, if you added a feature but the users don't like it or they're not using it much, just do some analytical thinking, and then if you come to the conclusion that they're not using this feature because it doesn't really help them, just drop that feature from that. Otherwise, it's going to be another thing to maintain, another cog in the wheel, right? So you don't want that, all that mess carried over and over into your things. And if things don't work well in the, if your product doesn't even satisfy the challenges of that industry, just pivot. I mean, there's no harm in pivoting. There's no problem in pivoting early, because we had to pivot also because our initial product was more like a full-fledged CRM solution. But then when we were showcasing that to the investors and to advisors and mentors, we were gathering feedback. They said, hey, you're trying to do a lot of things that are already prevalent in the CRM solutions in the market. Why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? There's tons of other products that can do these things. Why would anyone choose your product? But we see this one product where you're doing that I didn't see in any other product. Why don't you focus on this one and then just leave the rest of the things and don't even think about adding them until you really feel the need to. And so we had to, our second version of the product, or I would say our first version that we showcase to the customers now is like just doing one thing, and it doesn't have all the other 20 different things that we thought of adding into that product earlier. And we had to discard that, even though we felt that they were really important in our eyes, but to the people that we showcased to, they felt that was not so important. So we took that feedback and thought about that feedback, and then we kind of had to discard that. And it really worked well, because now we're able to sell the product as that one feature is the USP of a product, and we can sell that much easier. And coming to the launching the product, again, people think about, when I see people think about launching, they only think about launching once and doing it like a big bang way, where you send out a press release, you do a big event where you pull all your maybe friends and family and potential customers, get some press coverage and things like that. I mean, that's okay for big companies to do, but for small startups that are hard on money, I mean, don't even think about that. I mean, launch soft. And I mean, no one cares. I mean, even today, no one cares when Twitter launched, or when or even remembers when Microsoft what exact day when Microsoft came into existence, or what exact day another billion-dollar company came into existence. No one really remembers any of that stuff, right? And so there's no reason to launch on a hard date. If you have something that the users can see and give some feedback on, just do a soft launch. I mean, it can be your friends, and if it's something a user-focused thing, show it to your friends and family and ask them to start using it, even though it is like the first beta version or beta of the beta version. Who cares? I mean, just ask them to use, get some feedback. They say something is not good, then, or if they find an issue, then even better, you fix that issue, and again, keep launching, and until you have a solid enough product where you want to do a press release, keep launching again and again. And then there's also, you don't even need to showcase it to a small group. If there's some local communities like meetups or places where people that potential users of your product will be meeting at or gathering, go to them and then showcase the product to them. Maybe you showcase it to 100 people, and maybe 2 or 3 people might show interest in using your product and giving you feedback. That's fine. I mean, that's how things happen, right? I mean, you don't people don't immediately fall in love with the things that you're doing, right? So go to local communities, showcase that, ask them to try it out, get some beta users, and then there's also online communities where you can do a soft launch. I mean, there's if you're on Reddit, you can find some industry focused or specific subreddits where people talk about these things. Tell them that, hey, there's a new thing that I'm working on. Can you give some feedback? I mean, people on Reddit are like, some you'll get some good comments and some bad comments, but who cares? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, no one cares if someone disrespects your product or bad mouths your product, right? So just keep launching until you're ready to do a press release. Don't think about press release as the only launch pad for your company. And also do A/B testing while you're launching. And when you launch to different communities, you can kind of launch it in a slightly different way with a slightly different feature set or UX or UI to understand which communities are responding better, which communities are not responding better, and then that will also help you understand where your potential users are, serious potential users are. And so launch soft, launch often, and then you can also, I've seen some people get a lot of traction through not the product that they're building, but through peripheral activities like they blog about industry issues, they blog about things that are not actually relevant to the product. Some people even do like if they have a product A and there's like product B, C, and D in the marketplace, they do a blog post comparing top 10 products that address this problem, and then they don't even put their product on the top. They'll just talk about the industry leaders in that marketplace, and then do comparisons of that, and then at the bottom or somewhere in the down, they'll kind of put a plugin for their product. And what that helps is that helps SEO because people don't search for your product because people don't know what your product is, right? They don't know your product name and they don't know how to search for your product. People just go and search for the best photo editing tool, and then they'll get some results, and then they'll also, some people don't just click on the results, but they'll click on an interesting blog post saying top 10 photo editing tools compared, or top 10 photo editing tools in 2019, and then you'll see, say, a comparison of Adobe Photoshop or GIMP or things like that, and then you'll also see some paid promotions or something like that. So, that's another way to spread the word, not just trying to, it's like a soft selling of the product and not just trying super hard on ads or promotions and things like that. So there's different ways. Just look at what others are doing, and some people do it really innovatively. They just send maybe they partner with local meetups and things like that, and they do raffles. Some people just send free tickets or things like that. Yes, sir.
So the Capital Factory, do they have marketing mentors and people that you can go to? It's not just all technologists trying to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
Inventing the wheel, right?
Yeah. They
Talk to an expert to get it done for you, right?
Right. I think there are definitely some marketing mentors. I haven't seen their most recent list of mentors, but I know that they used to have some marketing mentors in the marketing and advertising space. But you can find out those mentors or list of those mentors on their website. Yeah.
Like you've got a concentration of the technologists here, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these startup things that are going
Yeah.
on. But you don't want to really waste your time trying to figure out how
Yeah.
to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great if somebody could come in and say, hey, look, don't do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time on this, do this. Or
Yeah, that's a great point, because I mean we are not experts in everything, right? Every aspect of the startup. So if we can find help in any of those aspects that we are not experts in, it's always good to, as I said, I mean, talk to mentors in places like this, or you can go to again. I always go back to the industry events happening or the meetups happening in that town, because here I think there's a marketing meetup. There's actually 2 or 3 marketing meetups in town. One is for say a product that helps in marketing, a tool-based marketing thing, and then there's also a content marketing group, I think, and then there's also other groups.
workshops here, I mean, you could just say, hey, everybody in the building, there's a marketing workshop going on here. If you can learn how to kind of launch your product, we got some speakers coming in or
Uh-huh.
product or whatever.
Yeah.
That kind of thing here.
I mean, I personally haven't done any marketing focused thing here, but I'm more than happy to do that. But Capital Factory does have some events where they kind of do workshops on those, or if not workshops, they kind of bring in some industry experts and have them speak about that. Yeah, I mean, personally for this meetup, if you want me to bring any marketing person to talk about, I mean, some expert to talk about those things or do a workshop, I'm more than happy to do that. So, and then there's also those other marketing meetups I talked about. They actually have some kind of workshop things going on. Not even though not every month, they have a periodic workshop things that they do.
That'll save you a ton of money.
Yeah.
And time. They can kind of help you
Mm-hmm.
establish your segmentation, establish who you're going to focus.
Yeah.
Customer persona and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So you guys can do what you do well.
Yeah, that's the thing I think the founders have to be cognizant of, is that they are not experts in everything. They need, when they see that they need help in a particular aspect, they need to proactively seek help. It could be in their immediate network, or it could be just posting on your Facebook, contacts, asking them, hey, do you know anyone who has marketing experience? Hey, do you know, or putting it on LinkedIn maybe, or tweeting about it, or things like that. So people have to be, I think that's one more thing, which is the founders have to take that initiative, because no one comes and helps you do the things that you want, because no one knows what you want, right? So we have to be cognizant of what we want, what we lack in, and seek that help. And again, the other things we already talked about. Did you talk to the users? Is what I'm trying to say there is that you already talked. You have to keep constant communication with the potential users. So we talked about finding potential users in the ideation phase. So the reason we talked about getting their contacts at that phase is because when you have a product, you can send an email or send a LinkedIn note or some message to them that, hey, remember we talked about this issue that you were having? I have a product that addresses that issue. Do you want to try it? And people are more than happy. Most of the time, people are more than happy to help for a few minutes of their time. If you ask them to help you test the product A to B, people may not want to do that, because that'll take like a day or 2 days or 3 days worth of work. But if you just ask them to take a look and give some feedback, and they'll spend 5 minutes and give you feedback. It's amazing what people will do when you ask them, because a lot of people are inherently, I found that people try to help. At least in the Austin ecosystem, I found that people are more eager to help and help, promote the community and help the community than stay, I don't want to touch this product or things like that. People are more generally helpful here, at least. I don't know how it is in the other places, but so that's one thing. Always go back, get contacts, ask them. Whenever you release a new feature, tell them, hey, I released a new feature. Can you just take a look? And sometimes, if they like the product, they'll become the evangelist for this product. And if they are your potential users, and they find value in your product, they can even, I mean, especially if they're a decision maker in that company, they'll go back and make a decision to try out your product, and they'll become your first corporate customer or a big customer for you. So always do that, because you'll eventually find a user evangelist if the product is good. At some point you'll see the users loving the product so much that they'll do, without any incentive from the company, they'll promote the product among their friends or family or their workspaces. So finding that user evangelist will be really helpful, because they give you testimonies, they give you credibility, they give you a lot more. They make your life a lot more easier, because you don't need to spend all that advertising and promotional dollars towards promoting your work. They will do it for you. So try to make it easier for, or try to always follow up with the users and try to find out who's your best user, and try to pamper that user through the means of building a better product. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is building a user persona, because you may have like 10 or 100 initial users that want to use your product or that are trying out your product, but your ideal customer may not be those 100 people. They may be just 2 or 3 people in that group. And the ideal customer would be the person that you find has the best mileage or gets the best mileage from your product. So try to find out that person. And you may find out that after doing the trial with 100 people, you may find out your product is more easier for tech savvy people to use. So maybe your user persona will slowly change over time and say become your ideal user persona would be like a tech savvy person who's in the under 40 years of age, or working in a certain industry, or lives in a metro city or things like that. So your user persona changes as you get more feedback, and your user persona is actually the persona that will help you sell. So when you want to promote your product on, say, you want to place an ad on Google or Facebook, you just don't want to place an ad for everyone to see. Your user persona will help you limit who you want to promote this to, and also help you spend your dollars wisely in promotions, help you sell the product, because when you talk to if it's a enterprise product, and you go into a business and talk to those folks, you'll quickly know who you want in the meeting, and you can request the person organizing that meeting in that company, hey, can you bring in your IT director, or can you bring in the sales manager, because I know this product is mostly used by sales managers. Can you bring in that sales manager in your company or in this particular department, so we can have his perspective also? Yes, sir.
So I think you've had experience with it. What if the IT director from one company to another is an idiot to somebody who's very smart?
That happens.
Just wondering how you have your persona.
Yeah. I mean, that's true, actually. The sales guys can actually, because of their experience in selling things to a wide range of folks, they kind of already have an intuition as to who's going to be the best person. But especially if you're a small startup trying to do that, you may not have that bandwidth to hire a sales guy. So especially in small startups, the CEO is the salesperson. If the CEO cannot sell the product, then I think that's if the CEO is trying to offload that responsibility to a sales hire, that's not the way to sell the product. The CEO has to know that. And then from our experience, what we found was, so in our experience, so we were trying to sell to auto dealers. So in the initial stages, we were going to auto dealers and asking, hey, can I meet your general manager, and show it to him. But a lot of places didn't allow us to talk to the general manager, because they don't know who we are, and they may be getting like 100 salespeople like us trying to sell them 1,000 different products. So they don't want to send everyone to the general manager. So they used to send us to like a middle level manager, or maybe their the boss, their immediate boss, who never has any decision-making abilities and doesn't express that they don't have the decision-making abilities. They always project that they make the decisions. And we used to come back from the meeting thinking, oh, the meeting went great. I mean, this guy really liked their product, and we'll secure the deal in a couple of days. But then after like 3 months, we wouldn't hear anything back from them. And then we kind of slowly come to the realization after a few emails and things like that we just got the wrong person. So slowly, after a few after the course of like 6 months or so, we slowly understood like who is the person we need to talk to. And then if we got an introduction to a person like the initial folks that we were talking to, we would kind of put that meeting on like a cold bucket and not bother too much about following up on that. And then the other thing that really helped, here maybe it's a tangential point, but one thing I wanted to make was the other thing that, especially being a B2B business, what helped us was introductions from the people in our accelerator. So one way accelerators really helped us, at least the B2B focused accelerator helped us in a way, was that they were able to, because they already had like a lot of connections in that space that we were working on, they would say, hey, go to this, the owner of this dealership, I know him, go talk to him, we can make an introduction. And that warm introduction helped us secure our initial clients much more easily than us trying to get through the gate and trying to find out, reach that person. So if you're in that space wherein you're finding difficult to, especially in the enterprise sales space where you're finding difficult to reach that person, see if you can find someone who can introduce you to that person, the decision maker. If not, if you think, accelerators are not for everyone, but joining an accelerator is not required for everyone. But if you feel that there's an accelerator that might help you in your space, there's no harm, finding more about that accelerator, maybe joining that accelerator. But if you already found people that can introduce you to those kind of decision makers, you don't even need to give up your equity. You can just make those, request those introductions and make those connections, because that was something that really helped. And over the time, you'll probably, once you start selling it, especially for enterprise side of businesses or B2B businesses, if you try to sell your product, you'll slowly realize who your ideal decision maker is, and you'll slowly understand where your ideal customers are. So with that said, that's my there's a thing that I wanted to talk about today. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to talk about those questions. If not, we can do a round of who's in the room and what backgrounds we have and what skills we have, and then we can go from there. So firstly, any questions or anything that you wanted me to answer? Okay, so that's good. No questions. That's all. That's always better. So what we'll do now is we'll just go through. That's the first one is my contact if you want to reach out to me, suman@funnelai.co. So what we'll do is because we have people with diverse experiences and skill sets here, let's go through the room and see if you have a startup or if you have an organization that you want to give a shout out to. Just give a shout out. Tell us what your startup is or what your organization does, and also tell us who you are and what your skill sets are. So if you're a marketing, if someone of you has like say a marketing skill set, and there's someone like who's working on a startup that wants some marketing help or has some marketing questions, you guys can talk about it and help each other. So let's start from you, maybe.
So I'm Andre Zepeda. So I'm with Chipper. It's a startup that came out of Capital Factory. We actually have an office down the street. I do it's financial technology. We help people pay off their student loans. So I work on the engineering side of that. So we actually have an application with 40,000 users. We control $240 million of student loans. And what we help people do is pay off their student loans faster. Think of like Acorns, that Acorns idea towards student loans. And then also Smarter with the release is going to happen this Thursday, which will help everybody figure out for free the repayment, what repayment options they qualify for, and if they qualify for forgiveness. So
What's it called?
Chipper.
CHIPPR or
CHIPPER.
PPER?
Yep.
Is it chipper dot, oops.
Chipper.app. Chipper.app. Yeah.
Oh, chipper dot app, okay. Okay, and I also kind of send, I don't know if I showed that earlier. Let me see. I also send out a newsletter where I kind of showcase some of those member companies. Yeah, this one. So where I kind of showcase the companies from our members in the member showcase list here. So I think the first 4 are the ones that kind of did their pitches last month or in the last event. And then there's other companies from our members that I just put in here. Usually I put in like 10 to 15 member showcase companies here. So if you want me to share that with the group, let me know, and I can just put a small blob there.
My name is Xianghua.